Going reasonably quick, eh? Alright, so I think I'll use the pure burnt umber for this guy. And let's go and block them in. I don't want any water or medium in it at this stage. It must be... I want maximum covering power, because I need to get this dark. So now if you do have burnt umber like mine that is a bit transparent, that's fine. Okay, soften that little bottom edge there. Just give it an extra coat. Now because I'm using my scooped up some yellow there. Because I'm using my soft fill bit, it allows me to get quite a bit of coverage, because now I'm laying down the paint as opposed to sort of when you're using a bristle brush, it sort of scrapes it on and scrapes it off again. And that helps me get initially a thicker layer of paint. And that gives me better coverage. If you get the shakes when you're painting these edges of the tree trunks, that's wonderful. That gives you extra texture. Yeah, nice character. I'm actually shaking here on purpose to make sure I get a little bit of character. You want your trees to be perfectly smooth. That's and unless you're painting one of those trees that are perfectly smooth, like maybe a blue gum tree. Otherwise, you want to give it that bit of character and texture. So sometimes you'll actually find I'll even leave an odd little, like a little white dot or two. Maybe Dennis can zoom in on that little piece there just for 2 seconds. You see that I got that little white dot there that you'd normally paint closed with the canvas is still shining through. Tree trunks on the edges, sometimes I'll actually leave those dots. If you've got, like with this tree here, I've got the snow that's sort of built up against the tree, piling up against the tree there. I'm going to try and sort of avoid as much of that area as what I can. It is possible, obviously, now to paint with the white over it, because it is opaque, but it's better not to, because otherwise sometimes you have to end up giving it 2 or 3 coats. Alright, now I want to show you a nice little trick before that paint does dry. I'm going to use a clean dry brush, and while that paint is still wet, you can start giving it texture already by using my little tapping technique. So I'll add a few taps, just wipe the excess paint off the brush, add a few more taps, wipe the excess paint off the brush. So now you've got some more that canvas that's just shining through. So it's almost like a little bit of a stabbing motion that I'm using. Less and less and less as I go through to the shadow side of the tree. So even though this isn't your highlight, it just already starts giving you a nice feel for your texture on the tree. at that. I've almost got a lovely shaded tree, and I've used one color. That's pretty cool, hey? And sometimes it works out that you can leave it like that. My favorite way to paint, hey? One coat painting. Wish you could always paint like that. Then we wouldn't have to worry about shadings or anything. Mixing up colors, you just zap it on and that's it. Let's give this guy a nice little texture. Can you see how I'm sort of wiggling my hand and stuff? So sometimes I'll wiggle and sometimes I'll tap, and that'll help me get that nice texture. This guy over here, he's thinner, so he'll probably be a bit smoother. He won't be quite as textured as the big one. And I'll bring him down a little further than what he needs to be. And now our distance is really starting to show up nicely, eh? With these dark contrasts in. Let's get that guy down over there. Alright, I'm going to give this guy a dry. Okay, so now I can start adding some extra details. Let's get some more burnt umber going down there. So while we add it, let's fully texturize these trees and get them over and done with. So I've popped down a bit more burnt umber on the palette. So now I'm going to take my burnt umber, because now I need to sort of mix highlights and stuff. Now you'll also find if your paint is a little bit too transparent and you're not happy with your darks, then what you can do is you can take that. Let's get a little bit of French ultramarine into the burnt umber. Orange is brown's shadow color, so to shadow a color you use the opposite color on the color wheel, and that's why I'm adding French ultramarine. Alright, so now we need to use, now we're creating texture. So I'm actually going to dump the actual picture. So I'm going to use a tapping motion. Random. Now if you haven't got a full bit like this, a nice flat one, then what you can do is you can use your rigger brush. And if you haven't got one of them, in a pinch you can use a fine round brush as well. Now if you're using the rigger brush, what you would do is you don't hold it like a pen, you hold it in the tips of your fingers like this. You see that? So that you can work with the whole length of the bristle. So you press it down like this. And that's how you get that nice texture. So I'm adding some lovely darks in here on the far side away from the sun. If you're using your full bit, just keep sort of reforming the point. You want a nice sharp chisel point. So that's why the rigger brush works so well, because it gives you a nice long fine line every time. So remember, lots lots of dabs. Now I'm working with a shadow color, so lots of dabs on the shadow side of the tree, and as you move towards the center, less and less and less. So that you sort of forming a shading, but you're forming a shading using dabs and dashes. Alright, so let's go for our highlight color on the trees. So I'm done with that guy now, so I think I'll just clean off this little area for now. Just to start fresh. Don't want those little flakes of dry paint in the where I'm painting. So I'm going to take some, yeah, just use the brush, I don't need much paint. So I've taken my burnt umber and add some orange to it, like that. And if I need to go lighter, I'll just steal some of that. Steal some of my sun color. Because that's what we do when we highlight anyway. Yeah? You go up towards the next color, up towards yellow. So I'm busy with an orange. So that one's got yellow in it, it's got white in it, so that gives me exactly what I need. Go on. So now I'm going to add my dabs and dashes of my highlight, and now you can see it's almost unnoticeable on this one over here because of those original ones we did. It just shows you how much time it actually saved us. Dab, now again, here I'm going to put lots of these dabs in the sun side, and as I go over to the shadow side, I'll make sure I've got less and less paint on the brush, so I may actually even just wipe it on my cloth just to get rid of that excess. So you just got a little bit, you're adding lighter, almost transparent dabs and dashes at this stage towards the shadow side. Lovely. I forgot that tree. I'll have to add these shadows back in. That'll teach me for throwing a piece of paint away when I know I haven't finished the painting yet. If you haven't got that dark in, you won't see the highlights because otherwise there's no contrast. Add those highlights in there like that. We will still add a final highlight onto the trees as well as we go along. Guys, I am working reasonably fast with this. But when you're doing stuff like this, it's actually good to work fast because then you can't really think about what you're doing. What you must just do is remember to pick up paint every now and again. The less you think, the more random it comes out. Lovely. Let's give this guy his highlights. I've actually added a little bit more white into this guy because he's not quite as, because he's so skinny. Couldn't really see the highlight. Okay, I'm happy with that. Cool bananas. Let's carry on with our snow.